In this episode, we're going to be talking about catastrophizing, expecting the worst from the future. And this is the way that most people get stuck in anxiety and worry about this future. And it causes depressive episodes. We get caught in depression. If you are someone who is getting caught in this cycle of emotional and mental behavior, you're going to love this because we're going to dive into 3 ways that you can actually begin to overcome it. I'm going to give you ways to slow it down, break it, and stop yourself from getting caught in a cycle of anxiety about the future that does not yet exist. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum. Hey, and welcome to this week's episode. We are on an advent at the beginning of something tremendous in our lives. But very often when you get to the beginning of something tremendous, something that's going to be, momentous in your life, maybe it's getting married, maybe it's about, a career move, maybe it's about a family home move. But whatever it is, like very often what happens is that when we're about to make changes in our lives, like we get caught in this catastrophizing, this expecting the worst of the future, like really worrying about a future that does not yet exist. And what this does for most people is that it creates anxiety and depressive episodes that actually blocks you from the results that you could possibly create. So in this episode of the podcast, I want to dive into what you can do and how you can change that. So the question is how to change life so that you love it. Like, how can you change life so that you love it? And I want to talk to you about change more than anxiety, because anxiety will, automatically dissipate the minute you begin to change. It's you that is in control of this. And for the most of us, and I'm going to give you some examples of my own life, but for the most part, we don't realize that it's actually happening. We are actually in the control seat. So I want you to imagine this scenario, like it's a very real scenario. It's something that, I've experienced with my own students, my own clients, with my own life. You are on this trajectory of life. You're going through your day-to-day rituals of life, and someone or something happens and you have an opportunity in your life. All of a sudden Allah presents you with an opportunity. It comes to you through people, it comes to you through maybe your job, maybe something in your life. And when that opportunity comes, the very first inclination is that, yes, of course I want it. But the minute you tell yourself I want it, or you want it, what happens is that you start to catastrophize. You start to think, well, hold on a minute, what if it goes wrong? What if, I put in all of this effort? What if I spend all of this time? I spend all of this money. I, invest my time and energy into this and my family time. And at the end of it, I don't get the results that I want. What if I get to the end of that and I'm feeling, I'm feeling like a failure? What if I actually fail the journey and I don't get to complete and achieve what I was hoping to achieve? And what happens in that state is that when you start to say these things to yourself, because I want you to recognize you're saying these things to yourself, when you do that, what will happen is that you start to feel anxious, you start to feel worried. And the more you think about this, the more you catastrophize, the more you think it's actually going to happen. And what this does is that it actually prevents us from opportunity. It prevents us from getting married. It prevents us from, taking up new, business ventures or career opportunities. It prevents us from having good relationships. It prevents us from growing in our lives. And if you want to grow in your life, it is really, really a good idea to actually figure out how to solve this problem. Now, if you think about the scenario I just gave you, like you could probably resonate with that, like most people can, because that's exactly what happens to all of us. We have an opportunity in our lives and we really want the opportunity, but we're fearful that it's not going to happen the way that we want it to happen. And the minute that happens, what happens is that your mind goes into overdrive and it starts to create all of these scenarios of, what if it all goes wrong? What if, I fail and everyone sees me to be a failure, it's a lot of shame. I'm going to feel a lot of shame. And so when you think that you're going to fail, you start to feel the shame right now in the present. And this is something that you play over in your mind over and over again. And we do this to the point that we end up creating such anxiety in the present that we wake up in the morning feeling anxious. You wake up in the morning feeling restless. Like in the night, you're waking up in the night feeling restless. And when this is happening, what's really overwhelming you is that feeling of failure, the feeling of impending doom, the feeling of everything going wrong. And we call this worry. But there is a way to change this. And I want to talk to you about really changing this, because what is required is the science of the nafs. We use this psychology model to break down what's happening inside of us. And it's not to complicate it. What we want to do is we want to simplify. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes everything for us simple. Like if you think about, the 5 pillars of Islam, there are only 5 pillars. There are not 50 pillars. Allah does not give us like a million things to do to succeed. He gives us simple ways to succeed. But us human beings, we like to complicate it, because in our mind, the problem itself is so complex. Like, how do I solve it? How do I solve a problem that I don't understand? And this is what we see in the psychology world. This is what we see, in generally in problem solving. In the business field, is problem solving is problematic because people make the situation so complex. The problem becomes so complex that you can't solve it. And if it is your business that you're worried about, or if it's your marriage you're worried about, and you're thinking that your partner's going to be cheating on you, or your kids are never going to be obedient, they're going to, some of the things that I hear, like, my kids are going to go to the hellfire. These types of things will make you anxious. When you feel your thoughts, which is what's happening, when you feel what you're thinking, which is what's happening, you're going to feel an extreme amount of anxiety. So when you feel like your life is not going to go in the direction that you want it to go in, naturally, you're going to feel an attack of anxiety. It just comes from nowhere, and you think it's coming from nowhere, but really what's happening is that it's growing inside of you. And I see this all the time. This is happening, like I deal with anxiety and, anxiety and panic attacks and all this sort of stuff on a regular basis. Like people with OCD, like one of the problems is that you're anxious about what you think is going to happen, or the outcome, or how things are going to go wrong. So you want to really stop it all from happening, stop it from going wrong. And so you tighten down on everything. And what that does is that it makes everything mentally restrictive. And once we become restrictive and we're expecting this worst, then what's going to happen is that your mind is playing games with you. And really it's because you're not leading your mind, right? One of the tools that I teach my coaches, I teach my students, is emotional leadership. Emotional leadership is a key tool in making sure that you are the one leading. You are the one leading. Your mind is a part of you. It is not all of you. That means that you are able to actually look at your mind, discern between what is going to help you, what's not going to help you, and you can start changing it. The anxiety that we feel, the depression comes about because we become hopeless. We become, really hopeless about what's to come in our lives. And what that does is that it makes us feel sad. It makes us feel angry. We start to feel resentful, and then we start to disconnect. And I see this with so many of my clients. And really, look, let me be honest with you. Like, who of us haven't experienced that? Whether you're an imam or scholar, or, like a psychologist or a teacher or a lawyer, whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter what your level of knowledge is. Like, most of us, we go through the human condition of thinking and feeling and behaving. And this is exactly what we teach in the science of the nafs. Like, what you think is going to drive your behaviors. And what's happening in your mind is really shaping your life. How you feel anxiety and how you get caught in it is because you're not breaking free from the state of your mind. The state of your mind is something that needs to change. And there are a few different simple ways to do this. And I want to give you some simple methods of beginning on this. Now, I'll give you a first one, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, talking about those of us who want this future, but not a horrible future, those of us who want this amazing future. And he says in Surah Al-Kahf, he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ. Like whoever aspires or hopes for or desires, and really the word is hope, but we're talking about a hope that is driven by belief, right? A hope that is driven by belief. And this is the first key to breaking free from this impending doom, the catastrophizing, the anxiety that comes from it, the depressive episodes that come from it. Like, you have to have hope in the future. You have to have hope in the future. Having hope in the future is something that we do in the present moment. So many of us, what we do is that we actually get caught in despairing of the future. Like, we start to despair the future. We start to think that the future is going to be this awful future and it's never going to get any better. And we catastrophize. We create stories. The mind is super powerful. And what it does is that it uses that imagination that you have, which is a very powerful tool, and it uses that to create these horror stories about the future. And as that's happening, what we do is that we get caught in the day-to-day rigor of our lives. We're trying to live our lives, but at the same time, what's happening is that you're paying your bills, you're raising your family, you're building your career or your business, and you're doing all of those things, and you want to live an aspirational life, but you get caught in the horror story of your imagination. And when this happens, like, you want to stop it from happening first, right? You don't want to wait for it to happen, then try and stop it. But when it does happen, one of the key foundational, rules or ways that you can actually, intervene in that negative process of your mind is that you begin your day, or you begin that moment. In that very moment, you just decide that your future is good. You just decide. It's a decision. You make a decision. And you make a decision that your future is going to be amazing. You make a decision because decisions, they're like the niyyah. The niyyah, the intentions, they are the things that are going to drive you to the end result. So when you make that decision, then what that's going to require is that it's going to require you to be, pretty exhaustive in, like, you've got to exhaust that thought process. You've got to believe it. You've got to think it. You've got to use your mind and direct your mind with your decision. When you do that, what you're doing is you're deciding on a future that's going to be amazing, right? If you decide on a future that's going to be amazing, your life is going to take a turn. In that very moment, if you decide on that, your life is going to take a turn. So that's the number one thing. You want to decide on a future. You want to decide on a future, but you want to envisage that future to be amazing, right? So if you do that, then what's going to happen is that you get to break the cycle of thinking that's creating all the anxiety. Because the reality is, right now, you don't have any of that future happening. It's your fear of it that makes you anxious. So if you change your mind, or change the direction of your mind, you get to change all of it. Let me give you a perfect example of this. In fact, I'm going to give you this one example. I have a mission. My mission is to reach 2 billion people, like officially 1.8 billion is what the official figures are. But we know, like, we are abundant. And I have a mission of reaching 2 billion people with this message, like giving all of the Muslims this science, like these tools. Like, this is the reason why I do this podcast. This is the reason why I've been doing all of the free public work that I do. This is the reason why I train certified coaches, and because they go out into the world and they change the lives of the people that they work with. And we are empowered by revelation. We are empowered by the Quranic Science of the Nafs, which is revelation based. It's 100% revelation based. So that means that Allah has given us the tools. So, there is nothing that could keep you stuck if you decided that you want to do it. But just the idea that I'm going to do this, like, strikes fear into my heart. It makes me feel overwhelmed because it's such a big number. It makes me feel can this really happen? Can I really do this? And And when I have these types of thoughts and then I start to catastrophize what that future will look like if I pursue this, if I do all of these things, like how everything could go wrong and it could never reach a soul and not one person is benefited from it. Like I catastrophize, even though right now I know that hundreds of thousands of people are benefiting from this work already. But my mind is telling me about this future. It's not telling me about what's happening now. It's telling me about this future. And the future is not giving me a good, something to look forward to. So, and look, I want you to just understand what's happening here. Like my example is that it's happening in the future, but it's not, the future hasn't arrived. We are in the present moment. When that future arrives, like we can figure it out then. But the reality is, like, in the present moment, if I keep my mind focused on what my future is going to be by making a decision, then what's going to happen is that my future begins to change. Why will it change? Because how I feel will change. How I behave now will change. And then I show up and I do the work, despite the fact that there are not 2 billion people listening to what I'm saying, despite the fact that this message has not reached 2 billion people. Like, it does not matter. My mission is to reach those. And I know there is nothing that we do in this world that comes to us except that it is rizq, it is sustenance, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that gives us the sustenance. So I don't need to worry about the algorithms. I don't need to worry about who shares it and who doesn't. Of course you should share this, because this, become a part of this mission. Help the Muslims become powerful leaders of their mind so they can lead their lives. Share these podcasts. But even if you didn't, like, I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will spread it, because that's the thinking that I need to have about my future, about the future of this work, about the future of this ummah. And when we do this, we believe in Allah. This is husnul dhan. This is like a good expectation of Allah. And what this will do, and this brings me on to step number 2. What can you do to create or break free from catastrophizing, break free from anxiety thinking, break free from depressive thinking? Believe that Allah has good for you. That's it. Like, that sounds so simplistic, but the reality is that we don't do it because we get so caught up in the negative energy of our emotions and how it makes us feel, and it depletes your energy. I know it. Like, we all experience it. This is the human way. But you can actually change this if you're willing to believe in Allah. And when I say believe in Allah, I know you believe in Allah, but what I'm saying is that you believe that Allah has good in store for you. And that's something that you've got to make a decision on, right? That Allah has good in store for you. You can't tell yourself and poke holes in that belief by putting doubt in there and saying to yourself, no, what if Allah doesn't give it to me? That what if, that thought there pokes holes in your belief. It makes it weak. And when that happens, you get to feel your doubts. And that creates more anxiety, more uncertainty, more anxiety. And so what we want to do is that we want to make sure that we are having that belief, and we're doing that by choice. We're doing it all by choice. And when you do that, what's going to happen is that your life will change. Your life will change because in the moment you are leading your life and you're heading towards the direction that you want to go in. And this is so powerful, folk. Like, I want to tell you that this is not theory. The Quranic science of the nafs is not, it's all theory based, but no, it's not even theory based. It's all theory until you apply it. It's the application of it that will change your life, right? And here's a suggestion. If you want to know how to apply this, come and join me in the free training that I'm running in 2 weeks' time. It's a free training. Go to themuslimlifecoach.org/masterclass and sign up for the free training. It is a life coach training with the Quranic science of the nafs. But if you're listening to this afterwards, then there are free trainings on the website. Just go and sign up for one of the free trainings. Go through it. I show you how to do it, right? But here I am sharing exactly what you can do immediately. So what we want to do is we want to break free from this anxiety that's induced by this future. So what you want to do is you want to bring your mind, and this is the third step, right? This is the third step. Bring your mind to focus in on the things that you are pleased with now, what you are grateful for now. Bring your mind back to that and do it as much as possible, right? The more you take your focus back to what you are grateful for, what you're happy about in your life already, the more you're going to see this future, impending future, to be actually something that's actually, you can look forward to it, you can aspire towards it, you can get excited about it. But if you never bring your mind back to focusing on what you already have that you love, then you're going to struggle, right? And this is why it's so important. Like, we are people that should be leaders of our minds, our lives, our families, and our communities. Like, we, the believers, we can do this. Like, you can do this. Like, Allah created you. Your creator created you to be amazing. Allah didn't create you to be like a sheep, a follower, just like dragging yourself through life. You can actually break free from this catastrophizing, and you can make it happen. So the three things that are so important. Look, this is just a snippet of what we do with the Quranic Science of the Nafs. The Science of the Nafs is a psychology model. It's a behavioral science. It is a life science that will help you to build your life in the way that you want it. So if you want to take control, like, take some of this stuff, even if you just take one thing from this podcast and you start applying it into your life. Like, wallahi, I cannot think for a second that you will not get any results. If you apply this stuff in your life, you're going to get instant results. This is what's going to happen. You're going to get instant results. And if you're getting stuck, then you need to go through my free training. Go to the free training, go to the website, go through it, and you will love it. This is what this is. Allah sent us a religion which, and I don't even like to call it a religion. Like, this is a way of life. This is the ultimate way to attain Jannah. And of course, like, we want to attain the highest Jannah. So that is your future as well. Like, make a decision on that. That's your future. Make a decision on it and get ready to create an amazing life. And if you're loving this, you want to join us and you want to get certified, or you want to just go through a life transformation journey, like, go through this content and apply it into your life. This is going to change your life the minute you do this. And if you want to join me on the free training, go to themuslimlifecoach.org and sign up. It's free. You're going to love it. And we are about to change our lives in the next 12 months. And if you're listening to this at some other time, begin now and change your life. Like, your life is your control. Like, you have to take control of your mind so that you can have the best life. The Quranic Science of the Nafs is the tool to give you the life that you want. Allah is the only one that gives us the results that we want. And I'm going to leave you on that. Jazakumullah khair. Hey guys, thanks for listening in on this podcast. If you are ready to up-level your mind, emotions, and relationships using a Quranic solution, you're going to love this podcast and what we are going to be sharing over the coming episodes. This is the most fundamental training that you're going to go through in your life. You can use it to transform your life, your mental and emotional health, your relationships, how you parent, how you are in your marriage, and truly your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are loving this and you want more of it, click subscribe. Or if you want one of our free trainings, go to themuslimlifecoach.org and sign up for the free training. You're going to love it. I'll see you on the inside. Jazakumullah khair.